Welcome to Jerry Berry's Friend-Tastic Library! Today we're going to talk about actual books instead of people books because I think you guys tend to like that a little bit as much as the interviews. And I like talking about books because I read a lot of books now. So we're going to talk about Little Women. This will be really similar to my The Help video where it's the Help book versus movie. So today we'll be doing Little Women, the 2019 Greta Gerwig Little Women versus the book. I never saw the 1990 Little Women. You can at me in the comments. It's totally fine. You can judge me if you want. But I've never seen the 1991. And I just read I saw the Greta Gerwig movie before I read the book. The Greta Gerwig movie made me want to read the book. So, and just to clarify, I do audiobooks, not actual books. Please don't be mean to me. I don't like whenever people judge me for doing audiobooks instead of reading actual books. So if you watch like my reading wrap-ups at the end of each month, I tend to talk more about why I like audio versus visual, but that's like a whole thing. So for the book versus movie Little Women, this will obviously have spoilers. If you do not want the movie or the 2019 movie or the book spoiled for you, please don't watch this. You can pause it, go listen to the audiobook or read the book and watch the movie and then come back. The audiobook is very, very long. And so in the movie, I think the Greta Gerwig film is like a little over 2 hours. So quite a commitment, but it's totally worth it in my opinion. So I know that the 1990 version like shaped a lot of people's lives as far as like 90s kids, and it's very blasphemous that I've never seen it. I thought about watching it and comparing all three, but I feel like I would just be so biased at this point by the book and by the Greta Gerwig movie that I wouldn't go in with a clear objective eye or mind for the 1990 movie, so I probably will never watch it. I'll just be critiquing it the whole time instead of really enjoying the story. So it wouldn't be entertaining at that point for me, and I really do things for entertainment, not to like dissect them. So yeah, that's that. Let me think. What else? So let's start with the movie because it's my favorite. I'm obsessed with the Little Women Greta Gerwig version. Completely obsessed. I know it had very mixed reviews, but I absolutely adored it. I watch it a lot. I own it through like YouTube, and I watch it as comfort like all the time. I love the cast. I knew that I wanted to see it once I saw the trailer and saw like Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh and Timothy Chalamet, Emma Watson. Like the cast is just amazing. Meryl Streep, Laura Dern. Those are like the main women. I honestly don't know the actors that played the men, but I know the dad is Better Call Saul, whoever that guy is. So, yeah, I loved the cast the second I saw the trailer in theaters, and it definitely lived up to all of my expectations. Without even reading the book, I loved everything about it. I love that it was like quick. I love that it jumped back and forth in times. Yeah, I loved all the characters. I feel like every character got their own highlight at their own time, especially like the more I watched it, the more like I feel like the first time you see it, it's the Joe show, which is how the book is meant to be, I think. So the first time you watch it, it's the Joe show. And I feel like the second time I watched it, I really paid attention to Meg or Emma Watson. And then like the third time I was just so stuck on Florence Pugh, and I know like right around that time Black Widow had come out, so I was like, oh my god, I'm fangirling so hard on Florence Pugh right now. I have to rewatch Little Women and only pay attention to her. So then you like pay attention to her and you hear all the little bits that she says throughout it, and you just fall in love with her. And then I think Meg got the less light, and I feel like Meg doesn't get very much light in the book as well. Again, huge spoiler alert, but Meg dies. Not Meg, sorry. The youngest one. Beth. Beth doesn't get that much screen. I feel like Beth is the least developed in the movie and in the book. And it's because she dies. Beth dies. I don't even know the actress that plays Beth now that I think about it. Yeah, I completely forgot about her for a second. Poor Beth. Anyways, so if you've never seen or heard of it and you don't care about spoilers, basically the synopsis is it's like after the After the Revolution. I'm horrible at history. I'm pretty sure it's after the Revolution. Because that was in the 1700s. Yeah, this is probably after that. And it's husband. Maybe it's during the Revolution? I don't know. We could go on like this forever. It's ye olden days in America. And these four young girls, it starts out and they are like, I want to say 12 to 16. And because there's four daughters, and then as it progresses, they become adults. So we get to see like Meg get married and have children. We get to see Jo go through all of her stuff with her career and her writing, and then finally settle down. We get to see Amy settle down. Beth passes away before she becomes a full woman, I guess. So, yeah, in the movie, they do jump backs between time periods, and they kind of differentiate it with cinematography lighting choices, I feel like. I'm not really a film person, but that's what I felt like. It looked visually old. It looked kind of sepia-ish. And then they also, all their hair was different. So like whenever they were younger, Amy had bangs. And for a long time, Jo had short hair because she cuts her hair to sell it and all this other stuff. So the book, I believe the audiobook, I read it last year. And I want to say it was like 18 hours or something. It might have been 16. It's in like that 16 to 18 hour range. It's a long one. And so to get all of that down to a 2-hour movie is hard enough. And this is very similar to like The Help, where I feel like they did such a fantastic job. Another thing too is like Little Women is a legitimate classic that I think was written in the 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I don't even know at this point. So now I'm going to have to Google it because it's going to bug me. I know it's really old. And I have struggled with reading like old classics. So yeah, 1868 was whenever it was published. I struggle reading classics so much. I feel like the language is hard to follow. It's a very different time. You have to be very used to women being like in their place at that time. The world just was not a nice place. And yeah, the language, like I've tried to listen to like Pride and Prejudice and stuff, and I just can't get into it. I know that one day I want to like finish a lot of these classics, like I did Little Women, but even Little Women took me a long time to get through because it didn't feel like a book that I could sit down and snuggle with and like just listen to. It's like I had to like take it in sections. I couldn't do large chunks at once. That's just me. That's just my personal thing. I'm not judging anybody that loves classics or anything like that. So I think that's why the movie was my favorite. I am a media lover and a huge media consumer. So for me, the movie was wonderful. And I think what I loved about it was it didn't follow the book 100%. It didn't follow the classic storyline of like, here's the girls, they're girls. Here's them doing stupid, silly things as girls. Now they're meeting boys, now they're getting married, and then they're all grown up. Greta Gerwig did this amazing thing where she like found ways to weave the two storylines together between adulthood and childhood, where Jo is almost remembering her childhood while she's in her adulthood because things are happening in a similar way. So I think that's what I loved about it. And my camera might die, so that's sad. Let me see if I can plug it in before it dies. You'll get a behind the scenes sneak peek of my hand. Okay, cool. So now that we don't have the fear of dying anymore. So that's why I think that's why I love the movie, because I'm just a huge movie lover and I love the way they did it. I liked watching it multiple times because they all talk over each other. All the girls talk over each other, and they're constantly touching each other and messing with each other and joking with each other. And to me, that just felt like actual family. I grew up with a large number of siblings. So, yeah, it felt very accurate to me, especially with the struggles with, like, sisters arguing. Like, whenever Amy ruins Jo's book because Jo wouldn't take her to the movies or something like that, right? Like, all of that stuff just seemed so accurate, and the way they directed it was so well done. So I loved weaving the two storylines together and kind of showing that, like, history repeats itself, or these things are all connected. I loved all of that. So for me, the movie was just, I can't say enough about it. I absolutely love it. I put it on at work a lot, just to have in the background if I need a break from books or podcasts or music. Yeah, I mean, as far as the book goes, the book is wonderful. You get to spend so much more time with each daughter, obviously, because it's like a 16-hour long book. But I feel like the pacing is very slow because it's 16 hours long and you're following the lives of 4 girls from from them going from like 12 to 18. The youngest is 12 and it is almost 18, I think, by the end. I believe Amy is 13 and she is like 19 or 20 by the end. So, okay. As far as like specific details, I did love that the book showed you so much more of the mom. You got to dive so much deeper into the mom's character in the book. Where she showed a little bit of herself to her daughters at different times and seemed just more real and authentic. And I think in the movie, she was just the mom of 4 daughters and she was a really good person and she wasn't as developed. They really focused on the 4 girls. In the movie, I absolutely loved Timothée Chalamet as Laurie. Like, I loved him. The scene where him and Joe are dancing at the party in the movie and he's just being super silly with her out on the porch is one of my favorites. Whenever they're on the hill and he's confessing his love for her, I'm like choking up every time I think of that. I love every minute of him being Laurie. Another favorite scene with Laurie is whenever they're like sitting in the attic and they're doing their little men's club thing where they have their pipes and they're pretending to be men and they're like, ha ha ha, here. They include Rory into that and I absolutely loved that scene. I think Florence Pugh was the perfect Amy. Like, the perfect Amy. I think that Amy gets a really bad rap in the book. She plays the bratty younger sister that fights with Joe a lot, and Joe is kind of the hero in the book. And I feel like whenever you watch the movie, you really start to feel for Amy, right? Like, I was kind of upset whenever I read the book and they portrayed Amy in such a bad light after seeing the movie first, because I think it was so wonderful how Amy portrayed being like that lesser to Joe's sister, or always trying to live up to her sister, because Joe was so great and so renowned and was always just going to do her own thing and be so independent, and she was trying so hard to be that. And I loved how they portrayed that. Like, one of my favorite things of all time, and I actually like wrote it down in my journal, was I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's the really long quote that she talks to Laurie in the art studio in France. And she's talking about how she would rather be respected if she couldn't have love, because if she were to marry a man, she would never have any money. It would all be his. And if she had children with him, they would not be hers. They would be his property. And I just love that whole thing. I love how Florence Pugh executed it. It gives me like goosebumps every time I think of it. I love that scene so much. I think Saoirse Ronan is a phenomenal actress. Everything I see her in, I love her in. She was in Lady Bird, and it is such a good movie. I believe Lady Bird is another Greta Gerwig film. I could be wrong. You can at me in the comments. So I love Saoirse Ronan. And her as Jo March, I think, could not have been casted any better, in my opinion. I feel like her, what's the word? Her, like, aura, her energy as an actress is that person, that big standoff, I'm gonna do me, I'm an independent, strong woman. I feel like she just gives that energy so naturally that it's so fitting for Jo March. I think that they portrayed Jo the best from book to movie. I think they were the closest, I should say. I think that they were the closest, like, to trueness from the book. And her whole monologue about hating that women can only be loved or else they're nothing, and that she doesn't want to give in to that idea, but she's so lonely, and she's confiding in her mom with that in the movie. I loved that whole scene with Saoirse Ronan. I could just fangirl about all of these actors all day long. I mean, obviously Emma Watson is like the best Meg, because Meg is just this like, she's the girl she's supposed to be, right? She's the girl that's just living in those times, wishing to be a wife and a mother and just wanting to make a man happy. And she wants to not be poor anymore, but she's like, you know, humble and simple about it and wants to do good things and yada, yada, yada. And so Emma Watson is obviously perfect for that role. Yeah, I loved everything about it. And the book was great. I think that the book is important to read. I think the book is important for other young girls and women to read, because it definitely portrays what the times were like back then and how far we've come. And it's like motivation to keep pushing forward. To me, it's like these women had nothing and they were risking everything to fight for their freedoms and their independences. And so it's a good, I feel like it's a good motivation for young women and adult women and all of that to just remember where we started and where we're at now, and to not stop until we get true equal rights. But that's a whole soapbox that I don't want to get on today. So I think that is another reason why I was obsessed with this story, whether it was the movie or the book itself. One other thing that I enjoyed about the movie, and that some people will hate me for, this is not a popular opinion, but I thought in the book that it was kind of creepy that Friedrich was so much older. I know that it's like accurate to the times, but it doesn't make it any less creepy. I think in the book he was meant to, I want to say he was meant to be like twice her age. They described him as a man that sounded like he was middle-aged, like in his 40s, and she was like an 18-year-old girl in college. So I don't like to judge people. Love is love is love. But it felt kind of creepy the way it worked out in the book, because at the time that those things weren't creepy. But now whenever you read it, you're like, oh, I don't know, Friedrich, that's kind of iffy. So anyways, in the movie, they made Friedrich much younger. It seemed as though Friedrich might have been like in his late 20s, if I had to guess, based off the actor that played him. I thought he was really cool. He has like the teeniest, tiniest part. But I thought it was cool that he was closer and he was older, yet closer in age than in the book. I appreciated that, and I think that whenever Greta Gerwig was doing this movie, she was like, yeah, it's a little creepy to put like a literal gray-haired man with, or like a going gray hair man with an 18-year-old girl. So let's just like dial it back a bit, right? So whether you agree or not, I think it plays better on TV when the guy is not super duper older than the female. That's just my opinion. But then again, I don't care who you love. If you're 18 years old and you're in love with a 40-year-old dude, like, have at it, honey. I'm not going to judge you. You do you, boo. Yeah, that's a whole thing. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, the dad wasn't really important in either one. Not that he wasn't important. He wasn't really played up on. The book is truly about womanhood, and they don't really play a lot to the men. I think that Meg's husband, his role in both book and movie were really good and pretty true to who they were. Yeah, I love the twist that Laurie ends up with Amy instead of Joe. I love that so much. I feel like, especially for its time back in the 1800s, they didn't follow the cliche trope of the friends falling in love, and instead the friend falls in love with the sister, and Joe is like all here for it. She's heartbroken at first, and then she realizes, like, no, this was the right thing. I made the right choice, and they're truly happy together, and they're better together. And I love everything about that. I love that in the 1800s, whenever this was written, that must have been like a fucking mind blower, dude. And even now, today, whenever I watched the movie in 2019, I was like, oh, Jesus, this is like the craziest twist I've ever thought to think. I thought for sure Joe would end up with Laurie. And it's like one of those bittersweet moments. But I love it so much that she was like, you know what? I'm here for it, Amy. Have at it. You guys look happy. I made the right decision. I love everything about it. So those are just my opinions. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Goodreads and YouTube and Spotify and Anchor, and all those links are always in the description. Yeah. And if you guys like these, let me know. I'll keep making more. I could talk about books like for days. I tried to watch the first episode of Station 11 last night because I finished the book, and I'm not sure that I will continue watching Station 11 or not. If I do, I might talk about that one next. I was trying to think if there's any other movie to books that I could talk about on here. I mean, yeah, I don't know. If you guys have suggestions, you can always comment. If you have like favorite books or you'd love to hear a comparison or just hear about a book, like comment below at me, whatever you need to do. I'm happy to do it and take on the challenge. I'm here for all of it. But yeah, I do like talking about movie to book comparisons because I truly love both for what they are. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I definitely want to do the series of unfortunate events. I know that's like way out of my age range, but I remember reading the first 3 or 4 books as a kid, and I watched the whole Netflix series, and I've seen the Jim Carrey movie, so I definitely want to reread that whole series and then talk about that. I read Big Little Lies, and what else? There's so many. Big Little Lies, 9 Perfect Strangers, those were both turned into shows, and I loved all of that. I can always talk about that. The Great Gatsby, The Bridge to Terabithia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, there's a lot that I could do. So if you guys are into it, let me know. If you have suggestions, comment below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting as always. If you want to be a member on the Jerry Berry Friend-Tastic Library podcast, you can always let me know. I love whenever people are excited to be on it, especially because it's so anxiety-ridden to ask people to be on it because of my own mental health struggles. But that's the whole thing. So, I love you all. Bye!